sheets, and I'm going to be doing the preview or lineup build for the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series races today. Now, obviously, 99.9% of the time, we're going to have Brandon Cruz here doing this, but he's actually at the races in Atlanta. So, we thought about it, and rather, we could have just said, what, he's out, you're on your own or whatever. It was either that or me, kind of struggle and, just kind of maybe give you whatever insights I have along with some lineup building advice. And I just figured we would go with that. Partially because, I'm looking at it myself. So you guys will want to, hopefully, maybe not, want to see how I'm looking at it. Because I am definitely playing. I'm going to be playing, I'm going to be playing just the MME, I think. I'll play, I'll put in 40 lineups in each of them. This is what the NASCAR gods do. They blessed me with the big score in the duel, so I'm basically free rolling for a while. So I may as well just go ahead and and degen pile these in. But the reality is that I really do enjoy the challenge of the different sports. It does provide different ways of looking at it. So if anybody does have any substantive advice with these cars, aside from what I go over, it's very likely that your takes will be just as good as mine, if not better. But we'll see what we can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to share it with the SaberSim screen up here. Now, what you'll see is that I have put in my projections here, and I compiled my sheets based on the same methods I usually do. A lot of different industry models. I looked at Brandon's stuff. I did a couple of things on my own, not too big of a tweak on my own. And with the usual caution that this is the first and a half race of the year. So with projections in general are probably pretty fragile in general. So that's something to keep in mind. But I do want to, share some thoughts with you about this. I also have ownership projections over here, and I already pre-filled them in. But you rely on the SaberSim ones. You could rely on the Brandon ones. Those are probably pretty good as well, or your own. Doesn't really matter too much. Although maybe I shouldn't say that it shouldn't matter too much. Anyway, so with respect to the track, right, this is not exactly the same thing as Daytona in that, it's not a complete shit show where it doesn't matter who gets to the front, it doesn't matter not how good of a driver you are, but you want to be really, really near the back and play for a wreck. It's not exactly like that, but it's also not exactly like these Richmond races or these really, really short tracks where somebody can get out there and just run away with it. So you do, I think, still need to, I don't say prioritize, but respect, the place differential of this race. So all of that is, of course, factored into the projections. But I did want to share something with you before we even get into it. And again, for those of you that play NASCAR, you know this already, but it's something that, I don't know, you just keep thinking about with respect to ceiling and projections and things like that with respect to NASCAR. NASCAR might be the only sport, I shouldn't say the only sport, there are probably others, I guess tennis technically, but not really, where there actually is a ceiling for how many points these guys can score, right? In theory, there is an optimal amount of points or a maximum amount of points that a driver can score going into it. There's upside, but there's no upside. There's upside from medians, but there's not upside from ceiling. Like, for example, when you think about the way points distribute, you only get points for points differential, place finishing, fast laps, and laps led. So technically, if you have the pole, the most you can get is all the laps led, somehow all of them be fastest laps, which is almost impossible. Right? Imagine that if every lap you were the fastest driver. That would mean, I guess, that you would be constantly pulling ahead from everybody, every single race, every single lap. Anyway, and then you can only finish first. And if you were, say, the 30th guy, like in 38th, you have a bigger quote unquote ceiling. Technically, if you on your first lap passed everybody, right, and then got to first, and then continue to get fast laps and laps led and things like that, then that's your maximum ceiling. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting that there's only a certain amount of real points, I guess, to distribute. Where in basketball and every other sport, if someone just completely goes off as a career performance or whatever, they could technically like outscore the rest of the field by more, depending on the race. I don't know. I just figured I would think about that a little bit. Anyway, so in the truck series, it's weird, because every once in a while they'll put like Kyle Busch in the truck series races, and you get the sense that they're doing it. This was my thought when I did started doing DFS with truck series races, is that you'd almost feel like he's trolling. Like obviously he's a better driver, probably with a better car than all these guys, and he just kind of just wants a W or whatever. So wherever he starts, he's just a favorite to win. So every once in a while, because of the way qualifying works, they'll put him in the 30 hole, and he can probably get to the front literally whenever you want. And from the DFS perspective, they price him up really, really high and basically dare you to play him, meaning that because of that ceiling I talked about, there's only so many points the guy can even get, right? So if you price him up high enough that even if you project the best for him, like just getting to the front soon, whenever it feels like it, and leading the laps and winning, it might not even be enough. I mean, it's probably enough, but not always. So it's kind of interesting when you get guys like Kyle Busch like this, when they price him $2,000 more than everybody else. I mean, he has to win for openers, and he's got to lead laps, and even that might not be enough. So I don't know. I guess it's something to think about, and that's why his ownership is high, but it's not through the roof. The highest owned guys are going to be the ones with the place differential that also have talent. Let me go over a couple of takes and thoughts, and this is based on my polling of the industry and just my own instinct as well. We talked about before last week, and I was asking Brandon this, like what drivers are there that at the end of last year were really just kind of putting their mark on the series or on the industry, such that, boy, if there was like another race, they would really, really break out. And we're looking at like younger guys that have done really, really well and just are ready to take that next leap. And I was asking Brandon last week so that maybe you can get ahead of it by just speculating on these. And I talked about guys like Corey LaJoie last week in the Cup Series and Suarez, other guys like that, whatever. And I just want to identify just kind of like my thoughts on some of these guys this week. So Corey Haim, honestly, actually, he already broke out a little bit last year, but yet still, I mean, he's just really accelerating. So he's someone to look out for. This guy, Nick Sanchez, he had a really, really good year, and people were expecting him to go forward again. We'll skip Ben Rhodes for a second, because Ben Rhodes, as I'm just going down my list here, like Ben Rhodes is more of kind of an established guy and while he's really, really good, it's not like that same profile of like the guy with the young, huge upside. This is like my opinion, I guess. But then you have Taylor Gray, who he and Tanner Gray are, they race together, and Taylor Gray is apparently like the better of them, and he's younger, and he's got the upside, so he's a guy to look out for, and they put him in the 31 hole, which makes it even harder, not harder to fade, but a really, really good guy to go after in general. And then today, I mean, this is pretty strong. Eckes, he's been around, but, so it's not that he doesn't have upside, but it doesn't have like that, that real big jump upside. And two other guys I want to talk about, just again, this is my own opinion. Ty Majeski, he was really just putting the throttle to him last year, towards the end, especially, I think. So I expect him to kind of like put the hammer on people this year. Grant Enfinger as well. And again, forget about this today for a second, but we'll get to that. Enfinger as well. He's another guy who is a good combination of good, also sort of young and just kind of, I think, on the upswing. And another guy that I wanted to bring up is just Jake Garcia. So we'll get to whether he's a good play today, but I mean, he's a young guy who could really go. He can really go after it. Dave, I'm really sorry. I don't actually know myself how to get the link to join the Discord. All I can tell you is if you put it in the in support or maybe put it in that boy, oh boy, I just don't have it right here in front of me. If anybody does have that in this on YouTube, I guess is where you are. It should be there in the link, in the YouTube link to the Discord. I'll look for it. Again, I'm not. When you said you already linked the Discord account to the TrueDFS, I just don't know. I apologize. It's Saturday morning. I don't know if anybody's around to answer that. I do apologize. And as far as core goes, as you'll know, again, I'm not the NASCAR expert. You're kind of picking it up in a tough spot because Brandon's usually the guy that talks about all this stuff, and he happens to be in Atlanta. So you're kind of stuck with me today. Again, I do apologize. Okay. So the Jake Garcia guy I mentioned, I mean, he's a young guy. I think he was a rookie last year. I'm not sure. But again, whether he's a good player or not, he's a guy I have on my list. There's just guys to give kind of a little extra, kind of a young guy, improving bump to. And then there's Brett Holmes. I put him down as another guy who is, somebody to keep an eye on. So what do you do with stuff like that? Me being kind of a projections guy, what do you do? You get all these takes, you do whatever, and you put them up in here. I'm inclined to, with guys like that, to give an extra point or two, just to give them a little more upside in the projections as things go. So that would be kind of my opinion on that. Now let's go through them, all these guys for today. So again, as I mentioned, right, it's not like the other super speedways, but it's not exactly like Richmond either. So you do want to get, ideally, guys are going to lead laps, but it's pretty important to get guys from back to back. So keeping all those things in the back of your head. I mean, these guys that I have rated as like kind of top owned. Well, I don't know how I'm actually rating these guys, but by projection, by projection. It's guys that I already kind of brought up, like Corey Heim, good upside driver, good starting position, 19. Nick Sanchez, good starting position, 18. Taylor Gray, good starting position, upside, all of it. I like all these guys. And then you have Ty Majeski. He doesn't have that place differential, so he's going to project a lot lower. And, he's 9,200, so from a point per dollar perspective, he's not going to project all that great. But, he's not going to be particularly high owned. So I think he's got kind of some cool upside here because I don't think that many people are going to play these guys like that. So Grant Enfinger, the 6, from the 6 hole. Yeah. So I appreciate that insight, okay, because I'm not sure. And I've heard both sides argue that in this particular race, in this particular track, you could either play it like a shit show and stack from the back, and it certainly makes a lot of sense. Or you can play guys near the front because it's, the Truck Series and, it's less, maybe, it's more of a chance to assert yourself, and it won't be all these cars, all within like 2 inches of each other or whatever. So you could make both arguments. And Kyle, I'm with you. I can totally do that. And if you did that, I mean, I know who I could play, right? You could play Corey Heim, Sanchez, Taylor Gray. Who else from the back here? Even Timmy Hill. I remember he put some decent races together sometimes. And then the other guy I mentioned was Brett Holmes. He's from the 24. Keith McGee. I'm looking at all these guys that are really, really stuck, not stuck, but are all the way in the back. I'd be cautious of these guys with really bad projections who are also all the way in the back. It just gives the impression to me that their car is just way too slow. Sterling is saying that each truck in Xfinity race has one main lap leader, but they haven't always come from the front. Yep, that's fair enough. Yeah, I and we see that a lot. Guys that are, just really good drivers in good cars that for whatever reason qualified 14th. They'll get to the front in like 2 seconds. And then, then not only they're leading laps, but they also have, 13 place differential was already in the bank. Well, not already in the bank, like temporarily in the bank. That's the thing about place differential. Like those points don't stay in the bank. You got to finish for those points to count. That's the thing about laps led, which is kind of cool. They can't ever take those away. Crafton, again, I did a little bit of thoughts on him actually, and yeah, he seems he's kind of I want to say middle of the road. I don't want to pretend I know more about these drivers than anything else, but he's a consistent guy who's been around. Who he's got the 8-hole, but he's cheaper than these others. So Matt Crafton at 11% ownership. These are guys that, again, depending on how many lineups you run. So Sterling, you're saying something interesting. You're saying if you're playing a front starter, I think it's Eckes. That's awesome, because when I first started doing this with the trucks, I always seemed as though Christian Eckes was in the front. I don't know whether that's just his thing, that they always just tell him to try to go to the front or whatever. But it's funny that you brought that up, because that was the first thing I noticed when I first started watching trucks. And Eckes, for whatever reason, is always at the front. And that's maybe like a real stupid thing to say, because sheets. I mean, what are you saying? Like sometimes his trucks are better, sometimes they're worse, sometimes he's in the front, sometimes he's not. I just kind of feel as though whenever I'm watching, he's always in the front. So what I like to do is I give my takes like that, and then I'll run these things and see actually what we get. So what we're going to do is we're going to run 40 lineups in here. We're going to build, not that. We'll build 1,000, and I'll show you why in a minute. And let's just have some fun. Let's build it for max variance, like the 150 max. So let's build 40 lineups using SaberSim, using the projections that we put in. And then, especially for NASCAR, the fun part is going to be just figuring out what to ignore. Say, boy, I know I'm getting X% of him, but screw it, I don't want that. Like maybe I don't want 42% Caden Honeycutt if I get him. And I don't know. It depends on the sport. It depends on how projectable these guys are. But in some sport, I do think it's healthy sometimes to just kind of override it, with your takes. So first thing you'll notice is in these lineups, the first 40 that were built, or we're rating them this way. Not surprisingly, I'm getting the majority of ownership in the guys that I mentioned, right? And it's pretty self-assuring, right? So Sanchez, Heim, Rhodes we talked about, Taylor Gray, Eckes, there he is. There's your man. Ty Dillon, who I didn't really talk about too much. And I'm getting the Kyle Busch at a very uncomfortable 32%. And the reason why I bring that up, it's uncomfortable, is that, boy, you can talk about this point forever in DFS, but when you have a chalky guy, it's been argued that you should either go all of him or none of him. And that advice has been, permeated throughout all the sports. Bobby and I both don't particularly like that way of looking at it. But I mean, if you're getting 30 and the field's at 30, maybe just eat it. Just say, I'll just get different elsewhere. And again, what's cool about this is that we're not sure what's right. But if I'm getting 30% of Kyle Busch, it feels dirty, right? It feels like wimping out. But I think that I'll probably just keep that. So it's interesting. So another guy I'm getting a lot of here, at least in the first build, is Bailey Curry. And Bailey Curry's a guy that I've had some success with over the years. And it's an uncomfortable Well, he's from the 20 hole, 28% ownership on Bailey Curry. That's very interesting. Tanner Gray, again, he is a guy that, I just don't like as much. So whenever I see that, and I have guys that I brought up down here, like Majeski, like Garcia. Okay, so this is a perfect, that's really funny, Kyle. This is a perfect guy, Jake Garcia. He's projecting like crap. He's got like a kind of a fishy start position, which is part of the reason he is projecting like crap. He's not particularly cheap, which is another reason he's projecting like crap. But you know what? If in fact this is his breakout year, and in like 8 races he's like 9K, you're going to be happy that you took a shot at this, especially in MME. So I am definitely going to get myself some more Garcia. What else did I not get any of? So, like for example, whoever brought up Matt Crafton, right? If you do your builds here and you say, "Boy, I'm getting only 5% of Matt Crafton," you could just go ahead and just manually upgrade these. So the question though is when do you do that? Like, how are you listing these guys? So, like right now, as you see, the settings we have is min uniques 1, which is fine for now. I'm probably going to change that a little bit. And then you see how we're rating this. We're rating them by Saber score. And when you click into the eye here, it'll show you what this all means. And not to get too into it, but what this actually is an okay portfolio of lineups that factors in, for the most part, projections, but to some degree, ownership. I'll just kind of leave it at that. What it's not doing is kind of ranking them against what they think the field is going to do. But I don't think there's going to be too much of a difference. Like the contest sim thing with NASCAR is so fishy, I think. I don't think people really know what people are going to play. But I don't know. I think it's better to do this. Let's just kind of show you. Like if I were going to actually run the contest sims, and maybe we'll get back to it. Add the contest sim. We'll just, what we'll do. We'll just presume that this ownership. We're going to use the Saber sim ownership for this one. Save, and let's run this contest sim. And I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this type of build, but I want to see, for my own edification, what the difference is between the way this looks, right? So right now, see Sanchez. Let's look at these ownerships before they disappear. Sanchez, Heim, Rhodes, Taylor, Gray, and Eckes. So if instead we rate these by this contest sim setting, by risk-adjusted ROI, let's see how it changes. Okay, the one real big change it made, actually, was bumping Tanner Gray all the way up to the top. And again, forget about your thoughts on the drivers for a second, right? That's something to keep in mind, okay? So let's go back to the regular one, which I think I want to kind of prefer here. First thing I do want to do is, well, do I want to change my drivers first, or do I want to make min uniques 2 or 3 first? Let's make the min unique setting 2 first, or even min uniques 3. I mean, there's a lot of variance here. So now the question is, how am I going to bump my drivers that I like, just for the hell of it, right? I mean, I could, just because it's stupid NASCAR, you know what I mean? I shouldn't say stupid NASCAR. I could just manually give myself more of these guys, and I'll tell you that worked out pretty nicely for when I hit the dual thing. So let's do that. Let's go in finger 30. Let's go Garcia 30. And that's a lot. I get it. But I don't care. And then Taylor Gray, I'm already getting 30, but let's just make sure I get that. So let's just actually do that. Let's put 30 for all of the guys that I just kind of identified as guys I kind of want to highlight this year. Ben Rhodes, I don't really need 30. Who else do we talk about? Bailey Curry, not necessarily. Brett Holmes, again, just for upside. Okay, Brett Holmes, Timmy Hill, not really. Oh, Ty Majeski, right? Ty Majeski. All right, let's talk about this for a second, BG, before we run this. Or do I gotta get Xfinity too? What's DFL? Dead? That means dead last. DFL dead effing last. Is that what that means? I got to get used to the acronyms. People really like the course history stuff with NASCAR, and people are better than me at this. But I will say this: that the sample size is really small. I'm just going to say statistically, to rely on how you've run at this track even like 2 or 3 times is probably statistically it's poor. But I guess if you don't have any other information, I guess it's not bad. So we upped all these guys to where I want, and I'm kind of inclined to just kind of run it, just like this. And the tricky ones that I'd be getting are Enfinger, because of his starting position, Garcia because who knows, Majeski because of his starting position. Brett Holmes, 30% is probably asking for trouble. So I'm going to go just for the 20%. And again, this is not what I usually do. Let's put it this way. I don't usually just make up numbers like this when I do this, but again, I'm just kind of just trying to figure out what to do here. And I think this gives me a good mix of all the guys that I like and the guys that I'm kind of supposed to like. And then usually what I do for most sports, I say, listen, don't worry about who else you have, but I just want to just make sure I don't have something really stupid here. Like, yeah, okay. And this is probably what I'm just going to roll with. Now, again, I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, right? But this is just what I'm doing. So what this has done is I've used SaberSim, right? I've used I use the technology at my disposal. I also put, a little bit of my own takes in it. And I've used the industry takes. And then what I did, just because, again, my confidence is low, I went to Min Uniques 3. This way I get a little more spread out among what I'm doing here. And what I did not do for the purposes of this one is I didn't use a contest sim because I really didn't think that I was going to be able to replicate the field well enough to benefit from it. So this is why in this particular card, this particular slate, I looked at it. And I guess part of it, listen, if I was going to use the contest sims and it was either give me all that Tanner Gray who I didn't really want too much, maybe that's as good a reason as any to just go with the regular Saber Source stuff, which is good enough, So that's what I'm going to do with respect to trucks. So let's just go to Xfinity now and do the exact same thing. So let's just take a look. The only thing I didn't really do with respect to Xfinity is I don't really have. Well, I'm going to go through the guys that I like in general for the course of the year, and not the guys that everybody knows, but just guys that again I want to just keep an eye on in Xfinity. Like we all know, Austin Hill's really good. Custer's, all these guys, Nemechek, Allmendinger, Algar, all these guys are really good. But Ryan Truex is a guy that I always like to get in there, I guess. Sam Mayer, I like him in general. That's coming, All-Star. Absolutely. Probably right after this. Parker Klingerman, I like him in general. Haley Deegan. I've been waiting for her to break out for like a while now, and I don't know. So unfortunately, this particular race, this particular series, I'm quite honest, I'm not quite as prepared. I'm going to have to just kind of just wing, not wing this, but just kind of rely on the numbers a little bit. But I do want to bring something up here. So we talked about preferring place differential in general for this type of race. But from what I'm hearing in the industry is that it doesn't matter when it comes to Austin Hill for some reason. That Austin Hill is just so much better, I guess, for some reason, that you could just play him at the 2-hole at 11K. And he's 40% owned. I don't know. My Xfinity people, my NASCAR people, does this make sense? Is that right? It feels like really awful. I'm just saying. For someone who just doesn't know better. If we're gonna prioritize Rex and all this other stuff on tracks like this, who died and left Austin Hill just the guy who's going to overcome all that at 11K and 40% ownership from the 2-hole? You know, we talked about, I mean, I referred to this before. I mean, he's got to win. I mean, for openers. And not only has he got to win, and he's got to win big, right? At 11K. He's got to win, meaning not only by a lot of lengths, I mean by leading like all the laps, pretty much. And not all of them, but so is this going to be like Sheets' lesson? You know, that I go way under on Austin Hill just for spite. And then when Austin Hill just basically is just running the show for like 2 hours and just crushing people at 40% ownership, that I'm just going to say, okay, this is why I'm an idiot. I don't know. Why is this not just as good of a race to do stuff like, I don't know, play JJ Yaley from the 36 hole or something like that, or maybe somebody better, maybe I don't know, Jordan Anderson from the 38. How about that? Jeb Burton from the 25. I mean, why is this race? Why is this race getting all the top projections from? Okay, so now we're talking. All right. So Jesse Love. Now we're talking. So this is. I don't want to get too much into this, but this is where I got my gambling start. Okay, not an Xfinity race. The first type of gambling that I really got into was harness racing. Okay. Growing up in the New Jersey, New York area. And one of these days I'll get into my whole harness racing history. But so much of what went into betting harness racing, especially on the shorter tracks, that's the only problem, is to figure out who's going to get to the freaking front. Okay. If you got to the front, you could, especially in shorter tracks, but in most tracks, you could just dominate the race, and you just we're just always in a big, in a positive situation. And if it was between two guys to get to the front, you know, if you could find the one guy to get to the front, it would be a big deal. So when I started first looking at Xfinity and car racing and whatever, I always gave a little more respect to the guy with the pole than maybe I should, because I'm just thinking, like, why can't you just like cut the corner, line up like Yonkers, like I would say, and just blast lead laps forever? Now, forever is a long time, right? So if the guy stinks or if the guy's car's no good, then someone's going to get past him, and then you're just going to be losing all the place differentials. But maybe before that happens, you can pile on some what do they call them? Dominator points, some laps led. So if you want to tell me, BG3, that Jesse Love's got the 1 and Austin Hill's got the 2, good example, and he's Austin Hill's teammate, and Austin Hill, for whatever reason, just lets Jesse Love just get out there, you know, and Austin Hill just kind of backs in and sits the 2-hole right behind him. What can happen is, I mean, Jesse Love can get some points. You know, I don't know if it's going to be enough, but that's got to be something to consider, right? I think that type of strategy is better for shorter tracks, though. I mean, it's definitely better than for shorter tracks. But it's definitely I definitely think about things in that way. See, now here's the problem, right? So this is the issue. So Austin Hill has led like all the laps. Yeah, I know. I get it. Maybe I'll just do it. I will say this though, good on DraftKings for pricing it this way, because they certainly are pricing this to perfection. I mean, if this were just straight up DFS, you know what I would say? I would say, okay, Austin Hill's got the 2. Nemechek, who I've heard of, and he's really good, has the 3. And one of them is 16% owned and the other is 40. And if Austin Hill just has a little bit of a bad day and Nemechek gets around him, then he's going to be my hero. Again, that's really probably a stupid way to do it, but that's definitely what I want to think about. But I think for this particular race, when it's going to come to actual building, I'm going to maybe like screw around with the Sims a little bit. Let's just take a look. So, let's take a look at Sterling is saying Jordan Anderson should be low. Okay, so I brought him up, right? From the 38 hole. Very nice. Okay. He lost an engine in qualifying. Does he have another one? Well, that'd be nice. I want some engine. So let's we already uploaded these. Let's run these and let's just see what we can do here. So again, we'll build 40 lineups. We'll build 1,000 total. And as you can see, by the way, I don't do anything with the min salaries or anything like that. Let's see what we got. And I'm probably going to update these sheets later, but it's not probably be that different. Austin Hill, good grief. Yeah, he's gonna let's see how many. What do you think he shows up in? Is he gonna be 100%? Let's see. All right, so first run with nothing different. Min uniques 1, regular saber score thing. We'd be getting, okay, this is fair. Only 55% Austin Hill. Ooh, and look at this. Look at this BG3 and Sterling. The aforementioned Jordan Anderson, we'd be getting a good amount of, getting 40% of. Now, I will say that his ownership, I'm getting a pretty big ownership projection on him at 35. So maybe you're suggesting he's not going to be highly owned. Might be fishy. I don't know. But Anderson, Burton, Brandon Jones, and you like Burton. Okay, good. And again, I think it's healthy when you have a knowledge of a sport, when you run these things and it's still getting you the stuff that you want. I kind of like it. But just for fun, what we're going to do is we're going to run a contest sim again and just kind of see. Do I have it here already? No, I didn't do it yet. So let's add these to my contests, and then I have to put the contest sim settings here. Now let's just see what we get. Sec. Just gotta check one thing. Sorry about this. I should probably wait. Well, that's pretty good. It's all reasonable. Okay. So when we look at these things by the piston, which is the MME, we'd be getting pretty much the same thing. Okay. Austin Hill, whole bunch of that. Actually, boy, oh boy, when you run the contest sims, you're getting 100% Austin Hill. Yeah. So even when we go min unique, say 3, then how much we're getting? Still getting all the Austin Hill. But what this means, okay, so when you look at this ownership distribution, and when you look at even like the way these look in their lineups here, you see what's going on here, right? What these lineups are supposing is that Austin Hill gets to the front and just dominates the race, and all these guys kind of just get there. It's giving you nobody with that else that's racing in the top 10. So this is one real story that it's telling. You know what one I really like, by the way? The one with both of them together, Austin Hill and Jesse Love. That's like a Yonkers race. That's like the 1-2 exact the box sort of whatever. Yeah, this is see this take I like, Steven. He'll let Love lead a bunch of laps last week in the same lineup and let Love yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. So what you could do if you wanted to, you could build rules that like only if you only play Jesse Love with Hill, because like Jesse Love is never gonna like get there without help, I suppose, and Hill ain't gonna help him unless he's pretty sure he's gonna win anyway, I guess. So that's a rule you could make. Now you know who keeps showing up in these lineups that no one's really commented on. Brandon Jones is just showing up in all of these lineups for me, and no one's really brought him up. He's sitting there with the 18 hole, and I, just kind of like innocently, you know what I mean? Good play, bad play, any opinions? I don't know. I will tell you, my opinion on all of this. And seriously, don't do as I say, do as I do. I've heard everything that everybody said, and I still am not a believer that this Austin Hill thing is just going to work. I don't know what to tell you. I'm inclined to not go like 100% of him, but I've had the respect that I can go with the field of like 50. That's my opinion on this. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do, listen, I'm pretty good about taking other people's good advice. That's what I've made all my money in my life. Is knowing who to believe and stuff like that. So we have confirmation that Jones is a good play. We have Sieg you're coming up with. So I have really no problem doing this. So this is how I do things. So how much am I getting of Sieg in this build? I'm getting 20. That sounds fine, but you know what I could do? Oh, let's go to 30. What the hell, right? And then who are other guys that I kind of mentioned that I kind of like? Like I did like to play Ryan Truex more. So again, these are just guys I talked about, right? And then Klingerman, I mean, he struggled last week at Chalk. Put him in. Jordan Anderson, I have 30 of. Burton, we talked about. So all these guys, I'm getting all this Ryan Sieg, though. Boy, oh boy, that's a little scary. There's the Jesse Love, getting some of him. I kind of like it. Brandon Jones. So when I do it this way, I'm not getting as much of him, and my man here says it's a good play, so I'm down. I'll move him up to 30. So again, I'm not saying this is optimal play, right? I don't really know much to say about Clemens except he's from the what position? The 23. Doesn't seem that great. Haley Deegan. So somebody told me to wait till Vegas. Still got to play a little though. Still got to play a little. Yeah, this all looks good to me. And I'm just going to kind of pile it and just kind of see what happens. So again, this has not been random, but it's also not been just me thinking that I know more about everybody else either. We've used SaberSim. We've used good projections. Did a good job lineup building. We chose to not use the contest sims. And we have a good Discord channel. We've had a couple of good takes in here. And what I am going to do is I'm going to put these, I'll split the difference. How about that? I'll put the regular Saber score ones into the MME, and then I will put the whatchamacallit, kind of the chalkier one into the spotter. I guess that makes some sense. And I guess that's pretty much all I have for this. Good luck to everybody. I'll be around for the first one. I'll probably won't be around for the second one, but feel free. Anybody put, oh, look at this, by the way. Look at all this money left on the table. Let's go. And that's pretty much all I have for this. I'm going to be here tomorrow to do the Cup Series at about the same time, about 10 o'clock. And I'm going to do recording the MMA thing. I don't want to do that one live, but I'm going to record that one. And that'll do it.